What is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Magneton? We are on to Lorelei. So I'm coming in at a nice low level of 35. If you check the move pool, we still have Thunder Shock and Sonic Boom. The reason for that is on Thunderbolt, if luck doesn't go our way, we can run out of PP since it's pretty much the only move we're using. And we're going to need Sonic Boom later on. But we're going to go with the traditional Lorelei strat, where we're going to get through the Dugong and get through the Cloyster. The Cloyster's no big deal because its special is not very good. So we go ahead and take it out. Even though we are level 35, we're taking these Pokemon out in one hit, which is pretty sweet to see. Magneton's special is very nice. But the traditional Lorelei strat is Mimic Amnesia. If you take a glance at Slowbro's move pool, all it can really do is Water Gun, and our special is great, and it's only getting greater. So it's pretty free. Definitely don't win every time on Lorelei, but it's not too bad. It's going to go for Amnesia, but it's not a big deal because ours is going up heavily. And then once we get 3 Amnesias off, we're going to be able to go for a Thunderbolt and take it out in one hit. So then the Jigs and the Lapras are where the real struggle comes in. Sometimes the Dugong does do a little bit more to me. It's not too common I get here with full HP. But since we have that nice badge boost as well, we're going to go ahead and take out Jinx pretty easily, even though we're not using a physical move. Lapras gets off a Confuse Ray, which if we had less HP, I'd be a little worried, because a Body Slam is not good. But we land the Thunderbolt, that's a one-hit KO. So the question I ask you is, what is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Magneton? We are on to Bruno. Now on paper, Magneton looks like it's going to have a pretty rough time. It has very low HP, minimal attack, defense isn't too bad, speed is alright, and remember in Gen 1, special stat is all one stat, so it actually has very good special. That means its special defense is actually very good. But Onix is so bad if we go with the traditional Bruno strat where we mimic Harden and up our defense. That duoed with our already good special, there's not a whole lot Bruno can do to us. If it knew Earthquake, that would be a different story. So while we're whooping up on Bruno quick here, we're just going to take a look at Magneton's move pool. So at this point, it seems like most Pokemon know Substitute, Rest, Reflect, some form of normal, either Body Slam, Takedown, Double Edge. A lot of them are knowing Hyper Beam. But of course, Magneton has its electric moves, which are pretty good. I think Thunderbolt and Ice Beam and Earthquake or Psychic, pretty much, if you know any of those moves, you're going to do pretty okay here. Though I am trying to make sure I do all these at the lowest level possible. I have listened to requests, however. If I see an opportunity to not use Mimic, I'm going to take that opportunity. And if these Pokemon had the move pools that they had in the remakes, Fire Red and Leaf Green, I don't think we would have to use Mimic so much. But a lot of these Pokemon just have terrible move pools. Rock type and Fighting type really got the shaft in this generation as well. And we want those world records, so we're going to keep going for it the best we can, alright? So that's Magneton for you. Just high special is basically what's going to bring him home today. So that being said, we have our defense up super high, and we're going to go ahead and hit a bunch of times on the Thunderbolt. And then you'll see Sonic Boom. That is why in the Lorelei video I said I'll need it for later. Is because when I was setting up all those Hardens on the first Onix, it had a lot of time to use Harden and X defense. So a move like Takedown or Hyper Beam wouldn't do very much against it. And even on the Onix that hasn't had time to set up, my Thunderbolts don't affect it at all. So even though Sonic Boom is slow, it's a reliable 20 damage no matter what the Onix decides to do. So kind of fun to be able to use a new move that fits well within a strat. And once we get that Onix down, so Bruno was not free, to be clear on this one. Bruno had taken me down a couple times here. But this just highlights how bad Bruno is. Look at what it does. It's a 3-hit KO on this Machamp, and he doesn't do anything while I'm at 35 HP. Like, holy cow. So there we go. We take him down. So the question I ask you is, what is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Magneton? We are on to Agatha. So this run was pretty fun. We got to use a different strat moving in. Since we are such a low level, mimicking Nightshade isn't going to do a whole lot for us. We'd have to increase our level just a little bit for it to be worth it, and we're trying to get through at a nice low level here. So we add Substitute and Rest to our move pool. What Substitute does is it prevents Confuse Ray from hitting us. If you're already confused, you'll still get hit in confusion. But if her Pokemon uses Confuse Ray or anything, it won't work. And so remember, whenever we're playing against Agatha, we're just trying to minimize her RNG opportunity to do damage. So whether that being knocking out her Pokemon in a certain amount of moves, moving before her, or preventing her attacks from working, we gotta find something like that to do if we're having trouble beating her. Now we did learn Rust in this one, which does open the door for Dream Eater, but the risk and reward was worth it. So the only really troublesome Pokemon are Gengar, Haunter, and Gengar, and unless they critical hit us, we're doing pretty good. So when the Arbok or Golbat would be out, the goal was to use Rest on them and get some health back. Now in this one, Rest is going to put you asleep for 2 turns, and you're going to wake up on the 3rd turn. On the turn you wake up, you cannot attack in Gen 1, so it's not as luck-based. We can at least plan a little bit of strategy around it, and having the substitute blocks us for at least one of those if we're lucky enough to have a substitute up when we use Rest. And then sometimes we would get in these little loops like you'll see on this one where we kind of use Rest, get up, have to use substitute. By the time we use substitute, we're already at a low health again because of critical hits. So sometimes it took just doing it a couple times to get the good RNG to where we are at a comfortable HP level to take on the last Gengar. But also at some point you just have to pull the trigger and shoot for it. So this definitely took a few tries and took a bit of moving around on what I wanted to do. I did try mimicking Nightshade, but I just didn't find that it was beneficial enough to take the turn to get it. And Thunderbolt gave me an opportunity to sometimes paralyze her Pokemon, which would then allow me to go first, reducing the amount of times Agatha can attack. So then she brings out the last Gengar here, and it goes for Toxic, which is probably good. Even though it gets a little hairy here, Toxic is a good one because it doesn't do that much. We do have enough room for 1 Nightshade here, but being poisoned, we really didn't want to play around with it too much. She uses Super Potion, I go for a Thunderbolt, and it's going to leave him with just a sliver. I'm hurt by poison, it goes for Dream Eater. Look at us go. That's Agatha at like 46. So, the question I ask you is, what is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Magneton? We are on to Lance. If you notice the move pool, you will see Reflect instead of Substitute. What that's going to do is help us tank those Hyper Beams. And what is nice is when they use it, we get an extra turn, so it takes something scary and turns it into something positive. We are also going to take this opportunity to mimic Hyper Beam, because the Dragonair's defense is not very good. Did we have to mimic it? Probably not, but it was just good to have. And then the Gyarados is an easy one-hit KO. And we know at level 50 we are going to outspeed the Dragonair, so we're going to go ahead and use a Rest. Now remember, Rest is going to be 2 turns asleep, 1 turn waking up, so 3 turns we are out. So Dragon Rage is actually the worst thing that the Dragonair can do to us, aside from a critical hit that would bypass our Reflect. We are level 50, which is 4 or 5 levels higher than where we were with Agatha. But that being said, I think Magneton is coming in at the lowest level aside from legendaries. So even though we did have to bulk up a little bit, Magneton is looking pretty good. So we opt to just go for 3 Thunderbolts here. The Hyper Beam does not kill the Dragonair after 1 Thunderbolt, and then once we saw how low it wasn't worth the 5% risk of missing. And then we go for Thunderbolt again. Not very effective, but we are getting some nice paralysis on it. Hyper Beam is good because it's not going to do that much to us. And since we have the paralysis, we figure, hey, let's just go for a Rest in case we get lucky with some fully paralyzed. And we knew there was a recharge coming. So I woke up, Slam does not do very much to me, so I'm in a good position to go ahead and Thunderbolt again. We give it the same treatment as the first Dragonair. It is fully paralyzed, so that is sweet. I was just thinking, but I am going to end up just going for a Thunderbolt again. Now we're sitting in a good position against the Aerodactyl. It really can't do a whole lot to us with that Reflect up. Supersonic is the worst thing that it can do, but that is not too big of a deal because we do have Rest, and it is not going to do very much. We just don't want to see critical hits, which we saw right there. But then we are going to use Thunderbolt, and it is going to take it down in 1 hit. So we go ahead and we take it down in 1 hit. And then out comes a Dragonite. We are going to have to go for Rest here, and we feel pretty safe about it because Slam and Hyper Beam are not going to do very much to us, and Agility and Barrier really don't matter for us. And it just makes me feel better not having to hope for luck there, even though I don't think we needed to. We did. It is a little faster than us. That's okay. We ended up not really using Hyper Beam at all here. So we're just going to go for Thunderbolts, Thunderbolts, and more Thunderbolts. And there we go. A bunch of metal just beat a bunch of dragons. So look at us go. The question I ask you is, what was the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Magneton? We are on to Blue. Level 51, we're looking pretty good here. So we're going to go ahead and Thunderbolt the Pidgeot and just get rid of it. The Sky Attack's not the end of the world if we do get hit with one, but we really don't want to play around. We can set up later. We're also going to do the same thing with Alakazam. Even though our special is so high, we really just don't want it playing around with us too much. It goes for a Psybeam, which is better than Psychic, and the Reflect doesn't really matter because we are using Special. Didn't love to see the full Restore there, but you know, we keep pushing through. Again, Psybeam better than Psychic, and then we're going to go for Thunderbolt. We're just going to try to get to the Rhydon with a decent amount of health. There's not a whole lot the Rhydon can do. Honestly, thank goodness for the Rhydon, because as you'll see here, what it lets us do is set up a Reflect, which is going to prevent us from taking damage from a lot of Blue's Pokemon. And then we're going to use Rest, because with the Reflect up, Fairy Attack is not doing that much, and Horn Drill will not affect us. So we just sleep for a couple turns. When we wake up, we're going to mimic Horn Drill. We pretty much have to do this because there's not a whole lot that can take down the Rhydon from Magneton's side. Even moves like Hyper Beam do minimal damage to this Rhydon. So we're going to go ahead and try to knock that out. We can use Thunderbolt on the Arcanine, and it will be a 2-hit KO, but there is not a whole lot the Arcanine can do for us. So then we go ahead and take out the Arcanine. So we just have 2 Pokemon left. We're at full health. We're looking pretty good. So on the Executor, we try to go for Thunderbolt. This is the first time I actually got to Executor, and it did nothing. So I was like, well, can't do a whole lot to us, so let's just shoot for a Horn Drill. And we end up getting it in 2 turns, which is pretty cool. And now with full health and Thunderbolt, I am feeling pretty good. So level 53 with a Magneton. Let's see if anything crazy happens. It could go for Blizzard and Freeze. I could get some Gen 1 misses, but none of that happens. We go ahead and knock out the Blastoise. So that's another world record under the belt. I thank you guys for watching. So the question I ask you is,